Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday. Sorry we're late. Craig was late as usual, so that's what we got.
I'm never late. But anyway, good morning, everyone. Good morning. What do we got for him today, Hanson?
Possession issues.
Possession issues. If you know someone who's possessed, this is the show for you.
What's that movie? The movie where she spins
The Exorcist?
around. Yeah, The Exorcist. Have you ever
Exorcist.
seen The Exorcist? This is the show for you.
And I guess a special shout out to Jamie Kennedy, who posed this question in the GNIAR Facebook chat group. And we thought we would do a show on it. We would expand on it a little bit and give our opinions. And that's another thing we're gonna go ahead and say as a disclaimer. Always ask your managing broker. And this is not intended to say that. I guess it's not an antitrust situation where we're going to say this is how we should be doing it or something. Yeah. It's always a case-by-case basis. This is just our opinion, and, you should talk to your managing broker if you have a question with this. Yep. So hello, everyone. Hello. Good morning. Okay, so we're going to get right down to it. Here's the thing. Okay, possession escrows are kind of a pain sometimes. Here's what happens, though, when I'm trying to think of the words I want to use, but I'm so glad it's one-way video. Steve.
Thanks, Steve. Well, that's TMI, Steve, man. That's TMI for everybody.
Steve, that's on the, that's live, buddy. Anyway, nice. Thanks, Steve. All right. Yeah, this is why I can't think of what I'm trying to say. When you sell a house to somebody and the seller stays in the house, you talk to an attorney or your managing broker, but legally that creates a tenancy situation.
Yep.
So the seller then becomes a tenant of the new buyer or the new owner of the house. So
now, I've heard in Illinois this is much more common, doing possession escrows and the whole tenancy thing and all that stuff. But I would say we don't do that, at least in our office, as a standard practice for the 1 to 3 day possession.
No. You know what? And I will tell you this. It used to be like Jamie was right. I mean, there used to be more frequency of having a possession escrow and doing all that kind of stuff. And quite frankly, it kind of sucked back then because there were literally times that I'm skipping ahead of our little agenda a little bit, but it used to suck because there was no time on there. So basically you might be meeting with a buyer's agent at 10 o'clock at night to hand the key over, and it was weird because the seller had until midnight of that day to turn over possession, and sometimes they ran over, and we had no choice in the matter. We had to do our job, and then thankfully they changed the contract a couple years after that, and then it became kind of standard just for possession at closing, kind of not standard, but it just became kind of more frequent than anything else.
Well, let's talk about tenancy situations again.
Okay. Tenancy is tough. In the state of Indiana, I'm pretty sure I'm accurate about this. I own some rental property, so I know how some of these landlord situations work. But if you don't have a lease, you're basically on what's called a 30-day tenancy or a month-to-month tenancy, and there you have to give 30 days written notice to ask someone to vacate and things like that. So it's weird, and if the seller will not leave, which I've never seen this, but if they just said, I know you bought my house, but I'm not moving, which again, I've never seen that, but you would have to evict them if you were the buyer of the house. So
talking about tenancy just a little bit in general, besides this possession issue thing, remember sometimes your client does buy 2 or 3 unit property that we use on the regular residential purchase agreement. You do need to make sure that you are addressing the tenancy issue in your further conditions as to, is the tenant going to be out? Do they get to stay? What is the possession for that? So you do have to kind of do that yourself, and it's just something to remember when you have a multi-unit that needs to be done.
Excellent. And then now we're going to move ahead to our next kind of point here. And another thing is, and I know no one meant this in the comments or anything like that, but we have to be very careful as real estate agents that we don't decide things for our customers. Right. We should be more of a consultant, and our job should be to make sure we help them achieve their goals.
Right.
Real estate transactions, as we all know, are they're heavy on compromise because usually the seller wanted more money, the buyer wanted to pay less. Someone wants possession now, someone wants to stay in there so they can hire movers after when they know it's all good to go. So it's kind of like there's a lot of compromise that happens with a real estate transaction. And we as agents need to be careful, because sometimes we will say things like, oh, I'm not going to let my person do that, or I'm not going to, my client's never going to go for that. But really, agents have to be careful, because sometimes you have to ask your client, we can't make those decisions for them. So that's something that's very important, I think, that, and I know no one meant that, like I said in the comments, but I think that is something that sometimes that language comes across like that.
And I mean, I've had possession escrows like 45 days long, which I never thought the buyer or the seller would really agree to, and they ended up working it out. So, I try to train my team kind of in all aspects. Like, it's not your decision, it's the buyer, right?
Yeah.
So, or the seller. So making sure that you're presenting it to them, that's your job. Whether you think it's right or not, you have to take that out of the equation.
Yeah. Excellent. Okay. Number 3, we kind of already talked about a little bit, but basically it was like the way it used to be, quite frankly, sucked. It sucked. We were always holding money afterwards. You had to get signatures to release possession escrows, which is not a big deal, but it was more steps that we had to do.
Sure.
So yeah. Thank you, Steve. Nice. I like it. Your first comment, wasn't a big fan of. Second one, I love it, Steve. Good job. Thank you. Steve, you're a clutch performer, Steve. I love it. So anyway, yeah, like midnight key exchanges and stuff like that. Man, those were bad. Were bad.
It's nice that there's a timeline in it now, and most of the time the buyers and sellers work together. But what I do have to say, what I kind of agree with, is the whole 1 to 3 days. Sometimes it's hard with movers and all that other kind of good stuff. If something does happen with the lender, and the longer timeline does give some movement for that. But if you have good lenders that you're working with, or even bad ones that you're not, like, your job behind the scenes is to make the lender perform like they should be.
Yeah, no, that's a great point.
So
that is a great point. And you know what? Sometimes you have a seller that is upside down. Even when we went through the recession and things like that, we had a lot of sellers that were bringing money to the table.
Yeah.
So they, it was more difficult for them financially. So it was a rough time at times. But yeah, sometimes the movers change schedules. Sometimes, whatever the case is. So there are some advantages to having a couple days after closing and things like that if a seller were to need it. And usually a couple days is not unreasonable. So I think, and that brings us to kind of like our main point is if your seller needs some time after closing, and there are situations, we've all had them where that is the case for one reason or another, put in the MLS remarks. Say, hey, seller might need three days after closing for possession to move out, or something along those lines. And then again, one thing that my first question was when this was posed in the Facebook group was, well, why don't you just counter it? If your client doesn't want that, just counter it. That's the answer is, if you know that that's a situation that your client is going to need, advise them to counter it.
Yeah.
I think that's the way to go.
I lost my train of thought, what I was going to say. Something about, but the big thing, in my opinion, is the longer the possession, the more issues you're going to have with that tenancy situation, right? So it's kind of like, it's that fine line that we walk with some of that. I mean, knock on wood, I've never had an issue where I've literally had a seller that won't move out.
Yeah.
But I can't say that I'm sure that's happened to people that are even watching right now. So.
And I will say this too, talk to your managing brokers if you don't understand that possession paragraph and the way that the liquidated damages works out, because I have seen, it's like a $350,000 house and it'll be like the possession or the possession would be $0 a day, and then it says like $50 a day for liquidated damages. Well, in that price range, that's nothing. That should be a steeper penalty. And here's the thing. Here's what everyone needs. If you read that's even that sentence or those couple sentences, it does not say this is what the buyer is, or this is what the seller is going to pay the buyer. This is saying, in addition to any other damages, this is a built-in per diem basically for the buyer for punishment, basically a penalty. Yeah. And here's again, agents have to be very careful when they're talking about stuff like this, because you really need to refer them to a real estate attorney, because only a judge can really enforce a contract.
Yep. Especially the liquidated damages part.
Especially liquidated, and it even says in addition to all other legal remedies and all other legal, other legal damages, you might have movers. Those could be a legitimate expense that your movers are charging extra days. There's tons of stuff that could also fall into that. So always be careful how you present that to your customer, because that's not exactly what that means.
Yeah, I kind of tell them they have to take them to court for the liquidated damages, because, you have to. It's not like they may not necessarily get payment for it right away if that does happen. So they need to understand that.
Yeah, and I would be more comfortable, instead of saying you have to take them to court for that, I would be more comfortable you saying, I would recommend you talk to a real estate attorney to find out what your options are. Yeah. I would recommend that. Yeah. And I always try to do that in writing, whether it's, text, email, or whatever, because realtors, we cannot play attorney.
Yeah. No legal advice, folks.
This is not legal advice, nor is it, misconstrued as such.
Right.
That's our disclaimer. So anyway, that's our opinion, and we like it. And
I didn't realize you already did the first one.
Yeah, we're done.
Yeah,
we're done.
We're done. We are.
We're done. Now we're just, hey, everyone. Thanks for watching. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you.
Hi, Brad. I saw you earlier, too.
Hey, everyone. Steve, everything good to go? You're ready to get out there and sell some houses. I love it. All right.
Hey, Linda. Thanks for watching.
All right. Got anything else?
I don't think so, guys. We will see you next Friday.
Yeah, feel free to share this video out and any kind of awesome real estate groups that everyone wants to know about this topic, really.
I think
you
so.
can talk about it at dinner tonight with the family. It's going to be great. Everyone's going to love it. So,
great dinner topic. Great.
Anyway, and thank you, Jamie, again, for posing this question to give us an idea of things. Thanks, Steve. To give us an idea of what to do. Okay.
We're deleting those comments later. Okay, bye.
All right, bye, everyone. Thank you. No, we're not gonna. Oh, man, what a weird show.
I know, right?
Yeah. We know we're still going.